our consciousness is amazing. The things we can do that we have no idea that we can do. People would ask me, when did you start talking to your guides? I'm like, oh, I remember this time when I was 28 and this happened. And then the next time somebody asked me, I was like, actually, I kind of remember this time when I was 21. And I'm like, that's weird because back then I couldn't do it. And then the next time they asked, I'm like, I kind of remember this time when I was 10. The more times people asked this question, the answer kept getting younger until I realized I've always been communicating with my guides. My intuition's always been there. I've always had awareness. I just didn't know it. There's no person that can't talk to their guides. I would even say there's no person that isn't already talking to their guides all the time. Everybody can do these things. So just keep trying. Each person has a spirit mind. There's just spirit mind. This is our natural state. There's nothing wrong with this mind. It was intended to be centered within love. But somehow along the way, we got it out here, and it just became centered in nothing. And our goal for this is really to change what's happening on the planet, because we're going through this rough time right now where things are amping up. On the planet, the energy is changing. We're going through a big transition evolution right now.
Aside from my soul. This podcast is all about energy mastery, but it's not just about mastering your own energy. It's about mastering interactions with people. It's about mastering chakras and how to collect your chakras and connect them to other people and how to actually communicate through your energetic centers. And also like limiting beliefs and how we have personal limiting beliefs, collective limiting beliefs. So this is an energetic conversation about us, personally, about our communities, and then collectively geopolitics. We go into so many things around the energy of the planet and the energy of the universe, spirit mind, where the world is going. This is a really profound conversation for energy mastery. And before we dive into today's podcast, I have to ask you, please take a moment to please like, subscribe, and comment on the channel. Your subscription goes a long way, more than I can say. Thank you so much in advance. Welcome back to the Inspired Evolution. And we have with us, again, I was going to say repeat offender. I definitely should not say that because we've loved having you on. But double trouble, second time round. Jeffrey Allen, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks, Amrit. So good to be here. And I loved last time. You've already got so many juicy questions out of me last time, but I look forward to seeing what's coming this time.
Well, thank you so much for that. And you're very kind. It was a very fun conversation as always, and also very illuminating and insightful. And as we were discussing earlier, just so well received by everybody here around the Inspired Evolution. The comment section literally just completely lit up. For those tuning into Jeffrey for the first time, I'm going to quickly do the honors. As I mentioned before, he's been on the Inspired Evolution podcast before, and that's not his only claim to fame. Pardon me, I am way too comfortable with you. He's a distinguished Mind Valley author and energy healer. He combines engineering precision with deep spiritual insights. He has been guiding over 1 million people worldwide towards personal energy mastery. He's become a global figure in energy training, helping individuals enhance their relationships, spiritual connection, personal presence. He's got his programs that he's known for, Duality and Spirit Mind, which offer practical tools for spiritual fitness and a profound connection with our true essence. And I guess in and around there, we're aiming to make higher awareness accessible to everyone. Jeffrey, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks. So good to be here. And I love that introduction. If I didn't have you saying that, I would forget all those things.
Especially the fact that you've been on the podcast.
For me, my focus is everyday life. Every day is my workshop. That's what I learned from my wife. It's just like that's where it's all happening. I totally forget all that stuff.
Yeah, all the things that we've achieved. And sometimes it's nice to receive. Oh yeah, like I did that. Oh yeah, and I did that. Yeah, I've been a busybody. It's nice to receive that. I wanted to start out of the gate today with a bit of a question around, and let's just go there. It's around manifestation, and I hear this quote a lot around the law of attraction. People are often talking about the law of attraction. I wanted to dial into your awareness and the space of energetics a little bit, because as I've studied more and more of the law of attraction, it seems to be, there's nothing wrong with it. It seems to be this thing that genuinely like impacts people's lives for the better. But it seems like there's, I don't want to call it a deeper law, but maybe you can help me reconcile my languaging around here. But there seems to be a deeper law around the law of resonance, which is actually we end up attracting what we're resonating as rather than what we're trying to just attract. That's like the sort of setup for the question in terms of, yeah, what do you feel, or what is your awareness around the law of resonance and its role towards being able to manifest certain things into our reality?
Yeah, good question. Good question. I've been thinking a lot about manifesting lately, actually, um, and resonance is really key. Yeah, because the idea that I think most people have is that I can use some like kind of tricks, if you will, to like I want to create something, and there's like some formula or some tricks I can try out, and then I'll those things will come to me. And it doesn't quite work like that energetically. It's a little deeper. Imagine that. And um, yeah, I like what you said about resonance. I've said that many times that when we go into resonance with something, frequency wise, so first we got to get our energy lined up and coherent. Usually, our energy is kind of all different directions, many things coming in. Our energy looks kind of mixed like this. If your energy is not coherent, it's hard to attract much of anything, or it's certainly hard to attract anything that's coherent because your energy is not coherent, right? So first, that's what we do. We kind of go within, we meditate, we look for places where maybe we have some guilt or shame or blame or something that's kind of out of resonance with our true being. And as we start to work on those, we kind of line up and we come into harmony with our spirit, right? And so now we're really resonating. And when you meet people like this, that's why you say, "Oh wow, you're so bright and shiny and just like and beautiful and amazing." And it's like, oh, that's what we're talking about is the energy. We're not talking about the skincare products. We're talking about like your energy is like so bright and fantastic. And when you're in that state of resonance, you're going to naturally resonate with other people in that state, right? So it's just like if you play guitar, if you've got two guitars in the same tuning, and you pluck the string on one of them, the same string will vibrate on the other one. And those guitars aren't touching; they're not connected in any way, um, visibly, right, physically, but just through resonance, harmonic resonance, they're vibrating. So the same thing's happening. So, and that's why when you're around people, uh, you can feel them. Even somebody you meet for the first time, you'd be like, "Oh, I really vibe with that person. I really resonate with that person. We're even using the correct words, right? Yeah, I resonate with them, and it's true, you do, because your chakras are like kind of like guitar strings. So each chakra, it's kind of like your own personal speaker and your microphone at the same time, and so you're going into resonance. Now with manifesting, should I just keep rolling here? I can talk forever.
Yes, please. Please keep
Okay.
rolling. I'll pepper in my
So with
questions where
manifesting,
appropriate, but please keep rolling.
I have no problem talking. The thing that I was thinking about recently is that um, myself, I'm always analyzing or kind of observing, I'd say, myself. I try not to do so much analyzing anymore, but I'm always watching myself, seeing what's happening, and then trying to see the bigger picture. And what I noticed is that this life work balance that we're all trying to achieve, uh, if I had to sum it up, I would say it's probably 1% or less manifesting and 99% or more living. That's the actual balance. It has nothing to do with really work and life balance, right? So, work, if I'm manifesting, meaning that I'm doing something or I'm taking some action to make a change, and so I'm kind of go 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 pushing in that direction. I'm manifesting, but we can't be doing that all the time, right? Because the purpose is to create uh, like the purpose of manifesting usually is I want to create a happy future. And that sounds really great, um, but not if the expense is that you don't find happiness now. Now, I really learned this from my wife Hisami. She says, when I ask her what her life's purpose is, she said, "Oh, that's really easy. It's to create happy memories." And I was like, whoa, that just kind of blew me away. I'm like, so simple and so profound and and present time. Like you can make a happy memory right now. You don't have to get ready. You don't have to plan. You don't have to manifest. There's no law of attraction required or anything. It's just like it's a perspective. It's like, am I present in this moment and showing up rather than being out in the future, planning or being stuck in the past. If I'm just like right here, I'm going to be making happy memories. And if I'm doing that, then isn't that was the goal I was trying to get to anyway, right? So like that's what I'm saying. So manifesting, we kind of make it this big thing. Like we want to spend all our time manifesting, manifesting, manifesting. And I think like 1% or less is probably balance, and the rest of the life is just living. And when you're doing that, the thing I've noticed for myself too is, because I made this big switch from being very manifesting oriented, doing energy work all the time on everything. I did that for more than a decade, right? Like maybe 2 decades, where it just everything I'm always manifesting. I need a parking spot, so I'm working the energy. I'm picking out something to eat, so I'm checking. I'm doing a reading on which see which food's right. I'm always doing energy work. That was like my thing. And then I met my wife, and she's not doing that, but I can see she's more tuned in, got more balance. She has all the things that I think I'm trying to get to, and without doing all the things that I'm doing to try to get to it. And like, hmm, okay, maybe I need to take a beat and like check her out, see what she's doing. And so the last 10 years, that's what I've been into is like, okay, turn down the manifesting, turn up the living and see what happens. And remarkably, more things manifested, more things came to fruition than if I would have been trying to make them happen. So it's kind of counterintuitive at first because we think we need to make things happen, but I think it's more accurate and graceful and certainly more fun to let things happen. Set up situations where uh, life can come to you, and then give it a chance to do that. You don't have to like chase it. Yeah.
There's there's a whole rabbit hole around some people tuning in going, "Hey, but I want to change how my situation looks," and we can get into that. But also, what I'm just want to sort of echo some of the sentiments around what you're sharing is what I'm hearing is manifesting is very focused on a what, um, whereas there's also just the how you're going about the daily thing that you're doing, and just getting connected to the how. Um, and I remember, yeah, there was another Mind Valley author, Dr. Sri Kumar Rao. He talked about purpose, and he was saying there's always two things happening. There's always what you're doing and how you're doing it. And he said that on stage. And the next day I had him in a podcast, and I was like, "What's more important between the two?" And he was like, "Oh, it's infinitely more important how you're doing what you're doing. It's almost irrelevant what you're doing." And I was like, "No one would say that." But in the common vernacular, and I'm hearing you saying that in your own way as well, which is profound. Because also there's that energy of how it can be a bit when you're searching for a want or a what. There's a bit of there's some frantic energy in there, and there's a bit of a lack frequency in there, and then you're like kind of trying to seek for something,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's an emptiness that you're trying to fill.
There is, and that's again. I'm going to reference my wife a lot just because I've been learning from her for so much. And uh, when she talks about it, she really talks about it in terms of. She said, I really like this too. She said, if you think about it in terms that you actually have two minds inside you. So you have one mind that's really optimized for dealing with the material world. So it knows how to measure things and compare things and so on. And so she calls that the material mind. And then there's one that's really optimized for your spirit. And so that one's called spirit mind. And when you learn how to use these two, suddenly some of the conflict goes away right away for me. Like instead of thinking, why am I sometimes like this, but other times it seems like completely the opposite? Am I like bipolar or like what's going on here? It's like, no, I just have two minds with different purposes. It's kind of like having two little translators sitting here. One is translating spiritual information, one's translating material mind information. And it's kind of like, okay, which one am I listening to in the moment? But they're both me. They're both, I'm not trying to like get rid of one and just be the other. It's like, how do I bring them together? And that's when things get really powerful. And yeah, it's really fascinating. So now let me see if I can key back into what you were saying. Was okay, I lost it. What was the?
The
I got so
energy of the
excited about this,
voids
I
when
lost your
we're
question.
yeah, when we're discussing, when we're discussing and focusing on what and through the attraction space as opposed to the resonance space where it's just like how we're doing what we're doing and the way we're carrying ourselves, we're avoiding the trap of having those voids, that we're trying to manifest from and
Right,
that
right.
frequency of lack.
Exactly. That's what it was. Yeah. And so this material mind over here has the idea of positive and negative and abundance and lack like that because those are material world aspects. Those are true in the material world, right? Spirit mind doesn't have that. Spirit mind is always full. It's always overflowing. And so if you're seeking to feel fulfilled in your life, and that's why we usually manifest like we want to feel fulfilled. It's not usually that we just want more stuff. Like even if we want more stuff, it's because we think that'll help us be fulfilled. If we dig a little deeper, we realize, oh, I want to feel fulfilled. So which mind would be the choice here? The one that has to do with lack and comparison, or the one that's already full? It's like, okay, probably this is good. This one's already full. Let's start there, right? And it's another way to kind of it's kind of a deeper energy take on what we were saying earlier that if I'm in the present moment and the how, I'm in this present moment, then I'm using that mind, or I can be showing up with that mind in the moment. But if I'm out in the future, if I'm trying to do stuff, all that belongs to this mind that's um, kind of busy, the mind that we're used to using. So we're accustomed to. Yeah, it's a little hard to put into words because it's funny. This whole concept over here doesn't have language. Language lives in this mind. So trying to make a when we try to make a training program about it, we're like, okay, if it has nothing to do with words, how am I going to talk about it? But so you kind of talk around it, you kind of get close. Some analogies,
And you
experience.
telepathically
That's right, right. Putting out the
communicate.
vibes right here. Are you getting it? Yeah.
It's coming through on the infrared levels. But yeah, you mentioned a little bit something about um, your chakras kind of being like open speakers and then also receivers. And the question was going to be around the lines of how do we do that energetic housekeeping and work to try and bring ourselves, the two hands that you had like that. And maybe these is two questions in one. Like, how do we do that? And then potentially, how can chakras help us do that? So, a double decker question.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah. So with the chakras, the thing to remember is that you're not broken. So your chakras, your energy body, your physical body, everything is sort of set up to be self-correcting and to create and sort of to create balance. But it's also a little sensitive. If I just eat hamburgers every day, my body's going to get a little out of balance and I have some problems. If I if I don't take care of myself, there's going to be problems physically. So same thing happens energetically. If I'm always for some reason I have a little pain. Somebody when I'm a child tells me, shut up, you're stupid, don't say that anymore, or we get some message uh, that probably gets passed on from something they had heard. Right? People tend to share their pain with unconsciously with others. If that gets in the fifth chakra here, the root chakra or the throat chakra rather, it's going to kind of close down. I'm going to be afraid to use my voice. And if I stay in that position and then I'm 20, 30, 40, the years are going by and this is still closed down here, that's going to start creating imbalances in other places. I'm going to be compensating with other chakras. It'd be kind of like if I didn't use one of my muscles, the rest of the body is going to try to pick up the slack, but it's not really positioned in a way to do that well. And so the thing to notice is to just and the beautiful thing about energy work is that it moves very quickly compared to the physical body. So in the body, if I have a real physical issue, that takes time and probably is going to take some external care. you need to get, maybe I'll need a surgery or some medicine or something to assist with that. Energy work, on the other hand, is very fast. The energy body can move very quickly. So I can go in, maybe I'm doing a session with somebody, hypnotherapist or somebody is guiding me through, and I kind of go in and I notice, oh, my throat, I found it. I remember this experience where some teacher said something and it just scared the bejesus out of me and I just closed down and I was afraid to talk again. This is actually my story, right? For example, my friend had that happen, right? So, yeah, I remember that. I was in sixth grade. I was running for. I can hear my throat already closing. I was in sixth grade and I was running for secretary or financial secretary or something like that. I don't remember. And I got up there and there's this big burly teacher in the back. He was the gym teacher, and he was like, I can't remember what he said. It was something like this, and then we did one of these, and then like that, and I was just like, this is like some big burly guy. I'm like, he could kill me, and I just choked. I was up there and I just went ah, and then that was it. And probably 30 years later, maybe 20 years later, I remembered it. I was doing a trade with somebody, an energy healing trade, and somehow I went in and I was like, oh, there's that thing, and there's that guy, and I could see how much it affected me, and I could also see that for him, it wasn't this mean, angry thing that I received. He was kind of a jokester too, right? He was kinda, he was probably trying to motivate me rather than shut me down for the rest of my life, right? So he's not like a villain. But from a young boy perspective, that was very scary. I couldn't receive that. I just closed. But when I saw that, I was able to say, "Oh, now that I know that energy's there, I can just start giving it some love. I can, from my present time self and this new awareness, this expanded awareness to the situation, I can be there and send love to my younger self." So I just see that little boy Jeffrey in sixth grade up on stage, or in front of the class, wasn't really a stage, but and and just choking, and I just be there and just be like, "Hey, you're okay. It's fine. You can talk. He's just joking around, and like just give the love as if as if I was there." And so that's how you heal these things. Basically, you just love yourself. You don't need anybody else outside doing it. It does help to have somebody kind of guide you into those places because we're like really both eyes closed. We don't want to look at our pain because it hurts, right? But somebody else can see it and they're like, "Hey, what about that giant thing that's on fire?" And you're like, "Well, I don't see it. What are you talking about?" So and then they're like, "Oh, that thing," and then you see what it is. Oh, okay. Start loving yourself. Maybe send a little love to that teacher, and then just kind of all the times. If I'm getting really carried away, I might just think of all the other times between here and now, and send a little love to myself. Because this understanding kind of comes all at once. Because we're engaging this other mind, right, that knows everything. Boom, right. That's where insight comes from. And so, oh, here's all those other times. Here's last week. Oh, here's some potential future times where I'm afraid I might choke. Let's just do them all. Let's just send love to myself in all those situations, and it's that simple. And it's not a one-time momentary thing, but every time it comes up after that, I have awareness of what it is, and I can say like, "Oh, I need to send a little bit of love." I really love doing this for my future self. It doesn't come up so much because I don't. Maybe I've been doing it too long now. But when I used to get ready to go on stage or I'm going to do an interview or something like this, if there's any kind of nervousness, I would just send love to that future self. I would just send love to me. It's going to be on stage in 2 weeks or 1 week or 1 day or 1 hour. I'm just always there, just like loving up that future me like crazy. And then when I step in the moment, I don't even think about it. All I do is I step in. There's just all this love and energy, and I just feel fantastic, right? And for me, this is kind of the secret that this is what I would call manifesting, right? It's just it's just love, just sending love to me in all those different places and times, and it's something you can always do. Anytime you're stressed, what are you stressed about? Send some love. If it's is it the future, send some love to that future you. Let you know that you got your back, that you're there. And then, are you stressed about something that happened in the past? Maybe you did something like maybe I said something kind of mean to somebody and I'm feeling guilty, send some love to myself in the past. Because obviously I was in pain if I said something obnoxious. Send myself a little love, and then send a little love to that person too, that was taking the brunt of my pain. Uh, that's that's the easiest way I know to uh, get unstuck, whether it's in a shock or anywhere else, and then move back into the flow, into grace, into love. And really easy.
Hey, you're Inspired Tribe. I want to take a quick sec. I wanted to share something today with you that is really dear to my heart, and it's actually what keeps the entire ecosystem around the Inspired Evolution thriving, my one-on-one coaching. So it's basically coaching that helps you live a spiritually aligned life. I coach people from all different types of walks of life. These people are leaders and they're looking to have an incredible spiritual impact in the lives that they're leading for themselves, and then also lead in alignment to their values. Now, you don't have to take my word for it. Here's a few people that have also transformed through my coaching, and here's what they have to say.
Amrit is a fantastic coach.
In a few sessions, he got to a depth that I'd only experienced before working with certain medicines. And
he's gone through a lot of the struggles that you're probably facing.
Then my corporate banking job wasn't really doing it.
You feel like you're not making progress towards your goals.
And Amrit's been a really strong, supportive figure in my journey.
I'm more in control of myself.
I'm kinder to myself.
I actually have that vision and a purpose.
I do feel like I'm a better version of myself already.
Amazing energy.
He was easy to talk to, which made me easy to trust him.
Working with Amrit at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and really I was bouncing out of bed.
Whenever I get off the calls with Amrit, best money we've ever spent.
I would not recommend him because I don't want everyone to know about him and then I won't be able to book him. If he gets too busy, I won't get my turn.
I would say absolutely.
There's no way you can work with Amrit for a period of time without being transformed.
So if you're considering him as a coach, do not hesitate, because you won't be disappointed.
As you guys can see, there's a lot of people all over the world from all these different corners experiencing incredible transformations. I don't think, if I can say humbly myself, that there is anything quite like this somewhere else online. Most people that, have channels that, grow and grow and grow don't really focus on one-to-one offerings. I have just found that it is the most profound space where you can bring yourself in a private container and really just share what's going on for yourself. And if you want to book in for that call with me, touch base, it's www.amrit.coach/life. That's www.amrit.coach/life. There is a link in the show notes below to book in that call. And yeah, if you want to take your journey further, if you want to dive in deeper and you really want to live a spiritually aligned life, if it's for you, please do check it out. And without too much further ado, once again, for your spirit, for yourself, today's podcast. Random question. Are you a Harry Potter fan by any chance?
A little bit, but it's been a long time. Yeah.
Okay. So there's I'll just try and keep this short, so just make it long. But in the third book, I'm a total nut. But in the third book, there's a point where, I'm not sure if you remember this, but Harry's been through this whole process and he's on one side of the lake and there's these creatures called Dementors. They come in around the lake and they're going to attack Harry and his mate. And they fly in and Harry's having his soul literally sucked out of him by these Dementors, they call them. And at that particular precise moment, he looks across the river and his father appears and shines like a blinding white magic spell and, sends this light and dispels the Dementors. And it's this, but his father's been passed away for a very long time, right? Since pretty much when he was born. And then you go down the narrative arc of the story for a little bit and it turns out there's this opportunity for him to time travel and he actually travels back in time. And then as you follow the narrative arc, it's actually him standing on the other side of the river. But even in the story, he's waiting for his father to appear out of the bushes at that precise moment when he's time traveled back to the time where he's on the other side of the lake about to have his soul sucked out, waiting for his dad to dispel the darkness and all that sort of stuff. But his dad doesn't arrive. And in that moment, he realizes that it's actually him that he interpreted as his father. And he shows up and shines all this light. Right. And it's like, and this is Hollywood, right? Like this is all happening. And it's like, it totally, I remind that piece, thank you for following along. I know it's a bit of a share, but reminds me all the time that's, you know, the love and the light that you can actually send it back to yourself
I've got
and to
I've
your
got a
future
real
self
life
as well.
story about that too.
Please.
So I had the most profound time that this happened for me. When I lived in Colorado. You know, I grew up in Colorado, so I was kind of a hick, you know, and I had this really cool 4-wheel drive vehicle, and I like to go up and hit the trails and drive on stuff that was impossible, and so one day I'm driving up this thing. It's like really challenging. I can barely make it up. You know, it's seeming pretty dangerous, but I get to the top and I realize, oh, I have to go back down. Going down just because of the way the hill is going to be a lot more challenging. So I'm coming down. You know, I'm excited, but I'm also scared. And then at some point, my front left tire I'm just teetering on these two tires here, and then the front goes down like and just goes off this drop off, right? And I'm hanging there, and I hear this, and I'm just like, oh, am I going to roll the truck? You know, and I hear this little voice in my head that says, "Let off the brake." So I'm so used to listening to my guys, I just do it instantly. I let off the brake, and the car goes boom, 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 and kind of comes down through and rights itself, you know, without any too much damage. I know, maybe I have to ask the car dealer. They always complained about the underside of my vehicle.
and a little bit of ego, and a little bit of material mind damage as well.
Right. But the interesting thing is later in the day, I thought, oh, I want to know who that was. There was, you know, because I felt it. They were over here. I could tell where the voice was coming from. Somebody told me that. I was thinking spirit guide, right? So I went into meditation. I sat down, and I went and looked at the situation. I do a little time travel myself, right? But just kind of in the energy. And so I go there, and I can see myself driving down, and I can hear the person say, "Let off the brake." And so I look over here, and it's me standing in the trees. And then I noticed that, oh, I'm also standing here watching myself drive and myself tell myself that. And then I thought, but actually, I'm sitting in my room meditating, right? And then I kind of opened my eyes. I was like, interesting. Like I was in 4 places and at least 2 times at once. And that's not a stretch at all. Like our consciousness is amazing. The things we can do that we have no idea that we can do. This is just all happening naturally. Uh, Everybody can do these things, but we don't know that because we're used to having these bodies. This is like a very kind of, you know, one place, one time sort of deal, seemingly, right? But our consciousness is so much bigger. You know, so that story that you told about Harry Potter, like that's true. I've had that story.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing your experience there. And that is fascinating, finding yourself in 4 places at once. The the natural question that was emerging for the audience listener tuning in is what does sending love actually look like? For those that this may be new to, what does that actually practically, when you're sending love to yourself, what does that feel like? What does that look like? Is it can you just run us through what that may be?
Sure.
Something
Yeah,
practical to take away.
it's kind of fun because that question is, you know, love lives in our spirit, so it lives in this part, right? And over here, there's a question like that doesn't even make sense. Be like, how could you? How do you love? Well, you just don't do anything else because it's your natural state. Your natural state is love. So, like, if you turn down all the noise, you'd be just vibrating at love all the time, right? That's our natural state. That's and so how do you love yourself is you just remember. You remember. But on a practical level, like if this is new, if you're kind of, you know, most of us used to living over here doing stuff, manifesting, you know, 5 steps to whatever, 5 steps to love yourself. I would say visualization really helps a lot of people. So I might imagine that back in that situation where I was a child, you know, and the teacher was said something that scared me. I might visualize myself there. I could imagine I'm sending like light. There's a beautiful one that my wife teaches, where she says, just imagine that you're in the center of the sun, like literally in the center of the sun, just all that energy, and that and you're just going to see yourself at whatever age or time in the center of the sun. So that's a very powerful way to send love to yourself. Um, some people like to see it kind of showering down. There's so all these visualizations are ways to help to kind of get through our belief system and back into what is just natural. So I encourage people to use whatever works for them. Make up your own energy tools, make up your own visualizations. Don't follow my guidance all the time. Like the way that I see it, hear it, and understand things doesn't mean that it's right for you. So when, like right now, if you're listening to this and you say, like, imagine yourself as a child, like some time where you were in pain or wish somebody was there for you, and then send some love to that child. Or you could just say, love that child. Doesn't have to maybe take the word send out. Love that child right now. Just like, I'm just feeling love for myself, appreciation, compassion. It's like my heart's opening. And then just that's enough. And if you feel inspired to do so, you can imagine some light around, or some warmth or heat, or uh, anything, smiles, whatever you're inspired to do. That's how that's what's going to be best for you.
Hey there, quick question. So do you use any of these energy tactics in your life? Are these a part of your awareness? And if so, let me know in the comments below how you use energy, what your awareness of energy is, and how it supports you in living a really rich and full life in the comment section below. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing
It's
that.
really easy. It's really easy. Yeah.
Yeah. Another question that emerged out of there is spirit guides. So last time we had a conversation was deeply rooted in intuition, and I don't mind traversing those grounds again because it is one of my favorite topics. I'm not sure if you remember, but we had this really yummy conversation about intuition, and then like deep inner knowing, when you just know you're here for stuff and you can't explain it. But yeah, in there, there's also guides. How do you listen to your guides? How do you hear your guides? Is that different to you listening to your own intuition, or is it the same channel, like that you're tuning into the bandwidth on? Or yeah
You're actually answering the question with your questions. It's perfect. Yeah. So
I don't
when
know
you
the
said
answer. Sorry.
is it the same channel as your intuition? Yes, and this is a fun journey that I've been on. When I first heard about spirit guides, I saw like other people have this ability where they can talk to these guides, or for some people it's like somebody from Pleiades or somewhere, like, and wow, other people have this ability. I wonder if I can develop it too. And so I went to school and tried some stuff, and it seemed like something fleeting was probably there, but I couldn't quite tune in. And then, without really knowing why, just because I was open to trying it, at some point I was having conversations with my guides, and it didn't seem any different than talking to other people. What happened was there's kind of a layer of unconscious energy between what we know now and the things that we, are unconscious, just to put it in simple terms, right? So this energy looks like kind of a gray and foggish kind of energy. So if I'm trying to see something, like if I'm trying to see this little thing, and it's in my unconscious, there'll be this layer of energy between me, and I literally cannot see it, even if I look right at it. Yeah, and what'll happen is, I kind of have to do this. If what'll happen if this is the unconscious energy, as my awareness goes towards it, I'll sort of just like forget where I was going, and then my awareness will just go somewhere else that I'm more comfortable with, right? And so this is a defense mechanism that we create to keep us away from our pain, usually. So we surround our pain with unconscious energy, so that if it's too much for us to deal with in the moment, then we won't keep hitting it. We'll be able to sort of veer off and sort of stay clear of this pain. But over time, we want to sort of, once we're, later in life, when we're have a little different perspective, might want to move this away so we can go in and see this. Same thing is true. This unconscious energy also exists between you and your guides, or you and greater awareness. sometimes, you can think of it kind of like a bubble around you that you live inside, and at times it'll sort of like, something will happen, whew, the bubble will expand and get bigger, and you're like, whoa, there's a lot more going on now than I knew of. But it's not new things that are happening. It's an awareness of things that you weren't aware of before, right? And so the more that you try to pierce that, some people call it the veil, you try to pierce that veil of unconsciousness, the more you'll kind of poke through, and eventually you'll kind of get through, and then it'll disappear. And for me, that's what happened with my guides. People would ask me, when did you start talking to your guides? I'm like, oh, I remember this time when I was 28 and this happened. And then the next time somebody asked me, I was like, actually, I kind of remember this time when I was 21. And I'm like, that's weird because back then I couldn't do it. And then the next time they asked, I'm like, I kind of remember this time when I was 10. Like it kept getting, the more times people ask this question, the answer kept getting younger until I realized I've always been communicating with my guides. My intuition's always been there. I've always had awareness. I just didn't know it. Right. And this is another place where you get to say, oh, that's because I was identifying with my ego, the part that, is very validated by our societies in this world. But I didn't know I had this other part of this other mind. But it's been there my whole life. I've been using it all along. I just didn't even know what I was doing. So talking to your guides is like that. And so just keep trying. Like if you're in that position where it seems like something you can't do, know that that's not true. There's no person that can't talk to their guides. I would even say there's no person that isn't already talking to their guides all the time. You just don't know. It's just something that you're doing that's outside your belief system or awareness or comprehension of yourself. But what I really liked was your second part of your question, where you said, is it the same channel as your intuition? So this is when I started getting into some really interesting conversations. When I first started talking to my guides, I hit them up for all the normal stuff. I'm like, does that girl like me? Right, hey, guides, can you tell me, am I going to get a good raise this year? Right. So we're not talking deep spiritual thoughts here. We're just like, I was in my 20s and I was just, thinking about that kind of stuff. Right. And then, after a little bit of time, that stuff started getting old, and I started asking deeper and deeper questions. Why am I here? Who am I? Who are you? Are are you me? And so that's when it started getting juicy. I'm asking my guides, are you really just me? And they're just like, well, yes, but not in the way that you're thinking. Like, because you're thinking over here, we're thinking about the physical world,
Material
and
mind.
right in this mind, and it will never make sense to you in this mind because we're talking about the spirit world. But yeah, you got it. Over here, there's many. There's separation in many. Everybody has a material mind, to use that terminology. Everybody has an ego, has a personality, a body. Over here, there isn't actually like each person has a spirit mind. There's just spirit mind, right? Right. And so there is no separation here. So if there's no separation, then my guides sure look a lot like me. In fact, actually, you look a lot like me. Okay, now we're getting kind of weird. Now you start seeing kind of some of the indigenous tribes will say things like, there's only one of us here, or you are another me, or all these kinds of things like, that's because they remembered this understanding, this mind, this awareness. Yeah.
I'm finding it very difficult in this conversation to not draw parallels, and maybe this is a blasphemous parallel, so pardon me if I'm doing that, but on my understanding of the unified field as I'm hearing it, and spirit mind as being in this oneness space, and then how the guides are appearing as manifestations of, well, part of, from that unified whole, from that spirit mind, as connection here. And like you said, the channel to the intuition is one and the same, and myself is all mixed up in there. And the parallels between Hinduism and the godheads, the different access points to connect to that unified field. Because I think there's this misconception in the West collectively, not of this big brushstroke I'm using there, but many people think that Hinduism is about many gods. And it's like, no, there's many godheads leading into that one unified field of awareness. And it's almost like we've got collective spirit guides that we've chosen to tune into for specific energies. That awareness was just with me. I just wanted to share that here.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, all the big spiritual teachings are talking about the same things, and grappling with how do we express this beautiful reality in insufficient language and mental models. So it's like every spiritual teaching is saying like, well, there's it's like there's this loving father in the sky that knows everything. It's like that, yeah, but it's not that. Okay, it's like, but it's kind of like that. That's a good analogy, and and uh, and it's kind of fun when you start looking at energy. All these things have specific words around them. Like it's fun when I was talking to my wife. This is years ago about religion, and she was asking in particular about like when I was doing healing work, I used to do it's called Christ Force healing, where I would tune in and I'm going to connect with Christ and let that Christ Force energy kind of flow through and into the people. And so when I was doing that, and we were doing a co-healing session on somebody, and she goes, "Oh, that is that the energy you're calling Christ or Christ Force?" I said, "Yeah," and she goes, "Oh, I didn't have a name for that, but I know that energy." Oh, okay, so that's what people are talking about. And it's like, oh, now she's like, "What's going on in your hand?" I'm like, "Well, that's what I would call people call that like Mary Magdalene's plugged in, and I'm doing some kind of channeling." And she's like, "Oh, that's what people are talking about. I didn't know. I hear people say that word, but I didn't know what they're talking about. Now I got it because she sees energy, or she says it's more like smells than sees. She says seeing is kind of limited, but like you can smell popcorn without having to look at it. She said it's more like smell like, and you know what popcorn is. You don't have to analyze, right? and but it was just really fun. And the same thing happens with other traditions too. If somebody's coming from a completely different background and talking about uh, their their religious heroes, then same thing. She's like, "Oh, that's yeah." Like we saw a Ganesha statue when we were traveling, and she's like, "Oh, wow, that guy used to scare the pants off me when I was a kid. There was always this elephant guy with sometimes multiple trunks or heads and stuff, and just freaked me out. But he kept showing up over and over talking to me." And I was like, "Yeah, Ganesh is really cool. Yeah." Yeah, I think yeah, it's fun. It's really fun.
Yeah. One of the questions that also arrived earlier that I wanted to ask was yeah, you mentioned pain and how energy can sort of not mask, but and not distort, but sort of cloud and protect us from looking at things where there may be wounds. Um, how do we sort of allow ourselves to first identify that there may be some things that we're not looking at, and then also potentially go down the path of addressing and looking and healing some of the things energetically? What does energetic healing, identifying and addressing look like?
Yeah, yeah. So I would say the clues are all around you in everyday life. So it's basically just kind of about listening. And I always give examples from my own life because I'm certainly learning all the time. Like I've noticed this several times, but recently I noticed again that, hey, I'm spending a little more time on Netflix than seems healthy. And I'm like, so what's happening here? Okay, I'm just gonna. As soon as I notice it, okay, like just turn it off, and then I go, what is happening with me right now? I'm not very comfortable. I'm tired, but that's not really it. It's like I'm not comfortable. And so then I just pause and I kind of let it sink in. The trick is to not be judgmental, right? I'm not trying to fix myself. I'm not trying to determine if I'm good or bad. I'm just listening to myself. I'm not feeling very comfortable. What am I not comfortable about? Oh, something, I don't know exactly, but it's something about the way I'm showing up or not showing up in my relationship right now. Oh, okay, interesting. I didn't even know that I was hitting this because I was just masking it by, I'm tired, I'm going to pop on the TV. That I was just, that was my unconscious energy. We got all these great tools for creating more unconscious energy, and we use them all the time. And then once I noticed that, maybe the next day or a couple of days, I just kept listening, and I made a conscious choice to, like, I'm just gonna, every time I reach for something that's a distraction, I'm gonna pause for a moment and then just tune in, because that's the moment when I'm right there. Like, it's whatever it is that wants to change, that wants to be healed, that wants to come out, anything that I want to see, it's right there at the surface. That's why I'm like, "Oh, scary, give me the remote, turn on the TV, or get on my iPhone, I better check the news, what's happening in US politics now? Oh, that's exciting." Like something, I gotta distract myself, right? So as soon as you notice yourself doing that, just be like, "Okay, what am I distracting myself from?" Because whatever it is right here. It's like it's like a micron away, I can touch it. That's why I'm kind of freaking out and reaching for the ejection seat handle, right? And and that's it. So that's how you find it, is you just notice where you're wanting to go unconscious, right? And there's nothing wrong with going unconscious. I'm not saying that's bad. But you ask the question, if you want to change, how do you
Where's
change?
the opportunity?
Notice when you're choosing to go unconscious. Notice when you're reaching for the tools that help you go unconscious. And like I said, unconscious energy, it is a tool itself that we use to create separation between us and our pain that we're not ready to deal with in this moment. If it's too much, then we create this unconscious energy to give us a little time and distance, so we can kind of live. We can keep living without just being overwhelmed by whatever it is. So it's not that it's a bad thing, but when it's coming up and you start to see it, just give yourself a chance to listen to it. And you can do the same technique that we talked about earlier. You can just start to love yourself. Instead of thinking, "Oh man, I regressed. I remember when I didn't watch TV at all and I was so diligent about it. And now I'm watching TV and I'm such a bad person and loser and poser." And, like, instead of all that stuff, just be like, "Oh, yeah, I'm reaching for something. I really love how kind I am to myself when I find that I'm uh, picking up my bad habits again. I really love how flexible I am, that I don't mind if I, you know, fall into something for an entire day. Maybe it say it's Netflix. Maybe I binge Netflix for a day, for example, if I was doing that. And then, like, I really love how I let myself have time to do these things. And I love that I can stop, and I love that right now I'm listening. And so all I'm doing is just finding different ways to love myself over and over and over. Okay, so that veil is starting to get pretty thin. If I'm not judging myself, suddenly this pain isn't very scary, right? Because pain is almost always about judgment. Judgment, even fear is about judgment. These are all the same thing. And so as I let go of that and embrace just loving myself, having compassion for myself, uh, and in a sense having fun with it, then things change. So somebody just mentioned that on a little podcast. I've been doing this a little micro podcast where I'm sharing stuff kind of in the moment, and I share this really deep thing. I don't even remember what it is, because once I go through it, it's gone. I'm on to the next deep experience, right? I don't really hang on to them. and But somebody said, "I love how at the end of this particularly, like, revealing, deep, and seemingly painful experience, you said that was really fun." And I was like, "But it was really fun. Like, is that surprising? I guess so." Oh yeah, that's because, like, it's true. Like, I can be crying and having fun because I love being here. I love being in the body. I love being alive. I love this experience, and I love the siren going by outside. And then there's this
It's also very fun.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's this idea that we can only have fun in, like, this really narrow range of supposedly happy things. But if that was true, then all movies would be happy, right? But people love to go see scary movies and just be scared out of their mind. That's fun. People love to go see sad movies and just cry and because that's fun. And then people like to go watch people shoot each other because I guess that's fun too for some odd reason. I don't know, somehow that's in our DNA or something, but all these things, whether they're scary or terrible or wonderful, they can all be fun. We can have love in all these experiences. Yeah.
Jeffrey, there's something really interesting about judgment when it comes to energetics. It seems to be a real gooey substance. It seems like it just makes everything stick. Can you expand or explain or correct me if I'm wrong and just clear up the judgment and the importance of working with it? Maybe it doesn't need to be demonized, but maybe you can help clear it up.
Yeah, well, like I said, you always answer your questions with your questions. It's beautiful. It's really insightful. So, yeah. So first thing you want to do is don't judge your judgment, right? So because if you're like, oh, I'm so judgmental, what a jerk I am. I'm just a judgmental.
Damn it,
What's
you're on to
wrong with
me. Get out of my head,
this
Jeffrey.
is not going to help. Talk about spiral. So first you gotta just have a sense of humor and curiosity. Be like, whoa, I was really judgmental there, and I don't like that I was. It's not who I want to be, but whoa, that's kind of crazy. Actually, I can't believe I said that or did that or felt that. And then, so once you let go of the judgment, you're like 95% of the way there, right? Because that's where we're mostly stuck, is in the meta judgment, if you will. Yeah, and and what the problem with judgment, or what's happening there, is, again, if you kind of go to these two perspectives on the world, if you're coming from the perspective of love, there isn't any judgment there. That's what love is. That's why we say unconditional love. Right? So love is non-judgment. It's just seeing somebody without judgment. That's love, right? And so over here, this mind, which is very necessary, is made to assess things in the world around us. What's good or bad or safe? Which water should I drink or not drink? Which animal could kill me, or maybe I can eat? Or I mean, so it's built for this world that we probably don't even need it so much anymore, to be honest. Because we've evolved beyond sort of our primal selves, theoretically. Maybe, I mean, we don't see any evidence for that, but just take my word for it that we've evolved beyond our primal selves.
Maybe you more than me. Let's just say that.
Maybe I'm optimistic here, but this that's what. So judgment is assessment. It's like assessment of a situation, right? And it's totally valid to assess a situation. That's really helpful, and we want to always have that mind that can assess even ourselves. The Where we get into trouble is when we start to assign like buckets to these as like good or bad or right or wrong. Like these are just beliefs. It's completely arbitrary. It's not based on anything. Probably it's not based on anything that I had internally. My judgments of right and wrong are just something I learned. I probably learned them from my parents, my teachers, my friends, my relationships, my society and TV and so on. So I kind of learned these right and wrong things, but it's completely arbitrary. If you go to a different country, you'll find people, what was good here is bad there, and bad here is good there, and it's that's all fantasy. And if you're living in a fantasy world all the time, where you believe that your beliefs are true, sorry everybody, if you believe that your beliefs are true, you can't see the truth, right? Like, you've created the most strongest unconscious cage possible, and then put yourself in the middle of it. So, and so you have to get humble at some point and just say, I don't know, like, where did my beliefs come from? Maybe I'm wrong. maybe I'm wrong, or I'm sure I'm wrong somewhere. So then, okay, that's a good step. Now I'm kind of curious, where is it? Now it starts getting kind of fun. It's like a little mystery. Like, I wonder where I'm wrong. Ah, kind of cool. I wonder where I got that belief. Like, why do I think that person is so bad just because their body shape is different than mine? That's kind of weird. Like, what's up with that? Like I came to Japan, everybody's a lot shorter than me. I went from being like average height skinny guy to being like the tallest, biggest person in the gym. I'm like, all I did is move cultures, and I'm like, that's kind of weird. I didn't like nothing physically changed, but suddenly the perception of me, everybody's ideas around me, everybody's beliefs did a 180. You know, so
Why do we? Oh,
yeah.
sorry, please. No, sorry, you please.
Oh no, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to
Yeah,
say,
probably
why
about
do
to say the
we?
same thing.
Doubt that very much so. You give me way too much credit. Hey, you're Inspired Tribe. I want to take a quick sec. I wanted to share something today with you that is really dear to my heart, and it's actually what keeps the entire ecosystem around the Inspired Evolution thriving, my one-on-one coaching. So it's basically coaching that helps you live a spiritually aligned life. I coach people from all different types of walks of life. These people are leaders and they're looking to have an incredible spiritual impact in the lives that they're leading for themselves, and then also lead in alignment to their values. Now, you don't have to take my word for it. Here's a few people that have also transformed through my coaching, and here's what they have to say.
Amrit is a fantastic coach.
In a few sessions, he got to a depth that I'd only experienced before working with certain medicines. And
He's gone through a lot of the struggles that you're probably facing.
Then my corporate banking job wasn't really doing it.
You feel like you're not making progress towards your goals.
And Amrit's been a really strong, supportive figure in my journey.
I'm more in control of myself.
I'm kinder to myself.
I actually have that vision and a purpose.
I do feel like I'm a better version of myself already.
Amazing energy.
He was easy to talk to, which made me easy to trust him.
Working with Amrit at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and really I was bouncing out of bed.
Whenever I get off the calls with Amrit, best money we've ever spent.
I would not recommend him because I don't want everyone to know about him and then I won't be able to book him. If he gets too busy, I won't get my turn.
I would say absolutely.
There's no way you can work with Amrit for a period of time without being transformed.
So if you're considering him as a coach, do not hesitate, because you won't be disappointed.
As you guys can see, there's a lot of people all over the world from all these different corners experiencing incredible transformations. I don't think, if I can say humbly myself, that there is anything quite like this somewhere else online. Most people that, have channels that, grow and grow and grow don't really focus on one-to-one offerings. I have just found that it is the most profound space where you can bring yourself in a private container and really just share what's going on for yourself. And if you want to book in for that call with me, touch base, it's www.amrit.coach/life. That's www.amrit.coach/life. There is a link in the show notes below to book in that call. And yeah, if you want to take your journey further, if you want to dive in deeper, and you really want to live a spiritually aligned life, if it's for you, please do check it out. And without too much further ado, once again, for your spirit, for yourself, today's podcast. Why is it so scary to confront beliefs? For those tuning into this podcast, I know from the comment section the tribe is very open-minded and open-hearted, but I know that there is, and again, I don't want to sound judgmental, but there is, and I've been in that boat myself, where it's actually been quite, even now, there are places where I'm afraid to let go of certain beliefs. Like, it can be scary to let go of your beliefs, or to confront your beliefs, or to even approach that humble space where it's like, oh, maybe what I know is just wrong. The fear associated with that. Why?
Well, I think beliefs are a shortcut. Like, you got to look at what are beliefs helpful for, right? So beliefs are a helpful shortcut. So if I don't have time, same thing with stereotypes. It's a really helpful shortcut. It's a way to assess the world quickly without having to dig too deep. Like, in the moment, I can just look and say, big guy's scary. Okay, that was helpful. And it doesn't mean it's always right, but it's helpful, So beliefs create this kind of safety for us. And we start thinking, oh, okay, if I live inside this beliefs, it may be a small cage, and it might be getting smaller and smaller as we add more beliefs to it. But if I'm inside, at least I kind of know, or I believe I know what's real. and I feel safe there. The problem is you can't do that anymore because we have this thing called the internet, and we have this thing called global communication. We have video conferencing. We have information flowing so fast now that you can't really stay in your little bubble. You're just going to get bombarded with other things. So the only way to survive inside this belief bubble that we create, our belief system or BS, uh, is is to make it harder and harder and harder shell. Like we're just going to have to get stronger and stronger and stronger so that nothing can penetrate this hard shell. And that's what we see happening in the world. That's what we see, kind of this calcification of beliefs in politics and other places. And it's not sustainable. At some point, a hard shell, like, an egg's got, that's the best, hardest structure you could create, and you can crack an egg. So you can certainly crack through your beliefs, and it's actually kind of it's one thing that really touches me these days is I see everybody struggling with this. Like, people are good people. Like, everybody I've met is a good person. Um, but our beliefs sort of constrain us in a way that sometimes we act out against things that we think might be dangerous, even though they're not. We know we don't see the world honestly, and the level of intensity is cranking up, partially because of the communication that we have with the internet and so on, but also just on the planet, the energy is changing. We're going through a big transition evolution right now, and so if you're in this belief system here, it's like turning on the stove underneath it. It's just getting hotter and hotter. The pressure cooker, and so more and more people are starting to explode. And when that happens, it's this is my wife calls this X zone. We're making a training about it, a free training actually. Hopefully, we'll get it out pretty soon because people need it. But it's because when that explosion happens, it goes boom outward to other people. We see that a lot in a lot of violence, or it goes inward, boom, and then people, violence against themselves. Uh, we're in the pressure cooker right now, so it's and the pressure cooker. The purpose of it is to help us get through. It's supporting us in getting through this idea that this is right. I put it out here, but really we should put it like here, right? It's all around me, right? I'm inside it, and it's supporting us in letting that go, so that we can see that the world is not as scary as we thought. Like you said, why are we afraid to release our beliefs? Because it feels safe inside, but it's not safe inside your beliefs anymore. That's the most dangerous place right now, is inside your beliefs. You want to start, as much as you can, start letting those go, start expanding yourself and exploring, and letting new things come in, because if you stay inside your beliefs, at some point the pressure, something's going to hit you, and you're going to hit X zone where you're like, oh, it's going to explode, and don't want that to happen, right? So the answer is, start reaching outside your beliefs. Like, have that option. Like, it's okay to believe strongly in something, but also believe that it's just your belief, and it's okay if somebody else doesn't. Right. So maybe that's the easiest first step, is like, don't apply your truth to everybody else. Let everybody have their own truth. Okay, if you can do that, again, you're 95% of the way there, because suddenly you've admitted that this isn't absolute truth. This is just your truth. Yeah.
I read a book a while ago called The Untethered Soul by a beautiful gentleman named Michael Singer. And there's a parable in there. And it made some sense to me when I read it. But in your sharing just then, it just came alive in terms of there's a guy who finds a patch of land, and it's the most beautiful patch of land. And he basically ends up building a home on this patch of land. And he keeps building, building, building. And it's like, this patch of land's perfect. It's in the sun and it's just epic. And he's built it, built it, built it. And he gets carried away with building. And eventually, if there's too much sunlight coming in, so he can boards up the windows, and just ends up, in his home and looking for bits of light, and doesn't really go out, and just keeps looking for the light, not knowing that there is so much light outside. And only now did it really coalesce for me in your sharing. I'm sure there's many interpretations of the parable, but for me, the belief systems and how they lock us in from all the light that's out there is really present. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that, Jeffrey.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really timely. That's the big thing that's their big challenge right now as a species. That's as we're evolving is the energy is pushing us to move beyond that, and it'll be a make or break. Like it's not gonna we can't win in a tug of war against the universe, right? The universe is gonna win. No matter how
My odds
strong
are on
willed
the
you are, you're
universe.
not gonna
Yes.
win. You're not gonna win that fight. Um, but it doesn't have to be a fight either, right? So that's the whole thing. It's like this new energy is coming in. Am I gonna resist it? Which you can get really strong and resist for a while, but at some point you're going to fighting against it, and then you're going to lose. Or it can just step by step. Can you say, "Oh, I'm resisting. Okay, I'm going to flow instead." Okay, I don't know what that means, but I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to let go a little bit. I'm getting wound up. I'm getting excited about whatever my thing is, and then just like, okay, I'm going to turn it down a notch. I'm just going to let go of that. Okay, I'm going to stop talking about that thing because nobody really likes listening to me talk about it. I don't even like listening to myself talk about it anymore. So I'm gonna let that one go. So just kind of start letting stuff go, and be amused. Don't judge yourself. There's nothing wrong with you that you have beliefs. It's that we're all alive. We all have beliefs. I have beliefs, and I just know that mine aren't true.
Yeah. And I love
That's the only difference, right?
I love the distillation that they're little hacks that we installed in place to just optimize the experience and accelerate the journey, or our way navigating the journey. But yeah, worth getting humble and checking in with them. Another point you mentioned earlier was yeah, there was just this real awareness dropping in for me around epigenetics and how everything just gets switched on and off. Which is we've had Dr. Bruce Lipton on the podcast, and he talks about how we basically come in as these clear slated blobs, most of us, and it's all nurture in his conversation. It's like you just things just flick on and off, and the beliefs of our parents and the beliefs of wherever we pick all this up. So that was really coalescing for me as well. Just this awareness of what Bruce is clued into in regards to spirit mind, and then how the material mind sort of flicks things on and off to help the character navigate the story and the journey. My question was going to be from the places we've been around the nature of fun and play. You've mentioned fun a few times in this
Yeah.
podcast. So yeah, is the spirit mind, like you've associated the word love to it, but then you also described like you going through your challenges and also like, oh well, okay, yes, that was kind of fun, and so this frequency of fun, or is it the frequency of play? Is the universe at play at large? Like what's going on there?
That's a great question. Yeah. So yeah, fun. Like I'm enjoying this journey of being here in a body on the planet right now, talking to you, interacting with everybody else. And like, this is intensely real. And it's the emotions are just insane, like just total love sometimes, and then like total grief sometimes, and like anger. And like, I mean, it's just so wild of a ride, and I love it. It's wonderful. Yeah, it's for me that's fun. Like I love personal growth, and I love expanding. I love learning where I'm wrong and trying new things. And so for me, all the fun is kind of actually over here. It's all about being here in the body. Now, how does that compare with love? Uh, Love is definitely bigger. Love is just this all on full all knowing presence, that there is no judgment at all. There's just love. That's the only thing that's there. So fun is definitely like a little eddy over here that I'm enjoying. It's different than the consciousness of love. And in fact, it's kind of funny. We had to put a little qualifier for people coming into the spirit mind training, because a lot of my students are used to my energy work, where we're doing a lot of stuff and we're creating stuff, and there's always some action you're taking. and it's fun. It's fun because there's like action that you're taking. And if like, hey, I'm making progress, I'm learning, and I'm doing stuff. And then they come into this space where we're talking about spirit mind, where we're just finding that space of love. And one of my good friends, he said, I get it. I'm really glad I'm taking this. But to be honest, it's kind of boring. Like, just being in love is like pretty boring. And I was we're just laughing, We're like, totally, because what's missing over here in love? Drama. Drama is missing, right? Drama lives over here, right? But we love drama. I love drama. Everybody loves drama. Or it's dramatic comedy, or like drama is the juicy, exciting stuff of life. It's also where all the trouble comes from, right? But but we're so addicted to this. It's kind of like being addicted to caffeine, that if like you stop it for a while, you kind of have these withdrawals. It's like, where's my drama? I don't want to just have love all the time. I need some drama, But if you kind of wait for the withdrawal symptoms to pass, then all of a sudden, and this really opens up, it's like, oh man, this feeling of love, this spirit mind space, this is what I wanted and I didn't even know it. Like all that stuff I thought I needed, that's just some stuff I saw some guy on YouTube had it, and so I wanted it too. But this is what I actually want. And the reason is because this is who I actually am. I'm not all these things. I'm not even this body. I mean, at the moment I am, but ultimately there's more. So it's like this becomes the most fulfilling. This is the place that's already full. So this is fulfillment over here. But it takes a while because I got to admit, this is pretty fun over here. Drama is really fun. So kind of the next stage, I should probably give a little tease here. Like the next part is once you're able to kind of like quiet the drama down enough that this wakes up, and then this energy here actually goes inside, which is that's where it naturally belongs. It's what my wife teaches. She says, this is our natural state. There's nothing wrong with this mind. It was intended to be centered within love. But somehow along the way, we got it out here, and it just became centered in nothing. And so it's like, she says, it's like a bunch of flower petals without the center. It's just not sustainable. And so once you're able, like once you kind of like quiet this down a little bit, get through my withdrawal symptoms, let this come up. Okay, then take this, put it back in the middle, and then all of a sudden, like, whoa, now I have all of it. And when dramas come up, they're fun. Maybe that's why everything's fun for me now, is because I'm coming from that space of love, even in the midst of my exciting self-created dramas. Yeah.
Jeffrey, I don't know how not to ask you how to point people to spirit mind at this particular point. That is putting the mind back in place. Again, not demonizing the material mind, but just finding the harmonious balance. Spirit Mind, can you tell us a little bit about, you've been talking about it the whole way through, but there's also a program called Spirit Mind. Can you just introduce it to us?
Yeah, sure. I'll try to do it really briefly because I
how to
talk
find
so
it.
much about it. So, Spirit Mind is actually my wife's teaching. She's been teaching it in Japan for a couple decades, and like I said, I kind of picked it up because we got married, and I noticed how amazing she was, and I noticed that she wasn't doing any of the things I thought I needed to do, and I was like, okay, what's happening there? And so I got an interpreter because we don't, we're not fluent in each other's language, which is a whole other podcast episode, right? And went to one of her classes and was just blown away. I was like, oh, I gotta help get this out to more people. I really want to share this because it's my next step in my journey, and so I know it'll be the next step in many other people's journey too. And so we made a program out of it. It's really beautiful. It's a 5-week training. It starts out with kind of the basics, like what's this new energy that's kind of hammering all of us, and what's the good and the bad and the fun and the ugly of it, and how do you deal with that? How do you deal with the emotions? Then we talk about how are you evolving? Like in particular, how are we evolving right now? And then kind of where are you at right now? And from day to day. So once you get a sense of that, you kind of know where your next step is. So it really helps to kind of have this map. And then that's sort of the prelude, the first couple weeks. And then we go into just a really deep, beautiful visuals and graphics and a beautiful cinematic experience of, letting this part of us wake up and like letting this part like calm down and then just letting them be together. That's kind of an easy way to say it. And then, so we let people go through the program just kind of as a personal journey first. And then because it's such an unusual thing, we decided to just offer free ongoing live, like once a month we do a live call with everybody in the program, and it's just free. It's just so like we don't want any barrier for people to be able to say, oh, I can't make it because of money. It's like, oh, we'll just do it once a month, and we just get in and circulate that energy. We might answer a question or two, but it's really about just let's all come back together and support each other and being in this unique state that's in one sense so familiar and so comfortable, but also it's kind of alien because we sort of forgot who we were for so long. And so just having a group of people together and just kind of all remembering together for an hour and then kind of comes back in. It's something that Isami said, and that I noticed too when I was taking private clients, that people would come once a month for a session. Even if nothing was going on, they'd come in and I'd be like, if nothing's happening, why are you keep scheduling? And they said, well, if I stop scheduling, then things just sort of go into the weeds. But if I keep scheduling with you for some reason, like even if there's no problems, then there'll not be more problems the next month too. And I was like, oh, okay, they're just talking about this, right? So if you talk to somebody who's is lined up, naturally you'll become more lined up too. And we can do it with each other. Even if you're both out of whack, you get together, you can both line each other up, you know. So this is the beauty of relationships and relating to people. And so it's like, we want to create this space where there's just this ongoing place where we can all come into resonance together. And our goal for this is really to change uh, change what's happening on the planet because we're going through this rough time right now where things are amping up and people aren't doing so hot with it. There's a lot of it's a kind of a in a sense sort of a dangerous time, this pressure cooker time. And this is the number one thing I can do to help with that, to help us make this transition into a less judgmental, more loving world in a graceful way. I believe we're going to get there anyway, but I'd like to see us get there in a graceful way rather than in a traumatic way. And the odds are still up in the air as to which one we're going to do. A lot of it. Everybody wants to get to a better place, but there's a lot of disagreement on what that better place would look like, and so it's. But I'd like to see it more like.
Yeah.
So that's spirit mind. Yeah.
I remember last time you were on the intention of setting your intentions and allowing them to come with you with gentleness. That has really stayed with me. And I'm hearing you refer to the grace again, just the wisdom of that, because them seas can be choppy. And in here, I just, you were mentioning again, we almost circled back to the beginning of the podcast with the law of resonance, as you were mentioning, like, spending time with people and, helping them come align and, lining back up. And Jeffrey, again, like, these hours that we spend with you on the podcast, it really just helping us remember and align. They really do feel like a transmission. They're just really supportive energetically as well. And just to hear you share, and also the material mind, keeping up with, the ways that it can provide a salve to the way that it's navigating the world. And I guess there is a lot more I wish to say, but gratitude is really on the tip of my tongue. Thank you so much for sharing yourself so abundantly and going into your own anecdotal stories as well and sharing yourself so vulnerably. I can't believe we talked about Harry Potter and books that I've read in the past as well today. And as always, it's not just today's conversation that we get to revel in. It's, like you said, 2 decades spent doing energy work one way, the last decade doing energy work. It's a lifetime's worth of work that we get to revel in these conversations. And I will put a link to Spirit Mind for everybody in the show notes below, and also Duality, which is available. And again, also just wanted to take a moment while I'm just got the mic and my soapbox, just really in awe of what you created with Duality as well, because very rarely, well, just like, your spiritual guidance to create a tool set for the material mind. Just really cool that, you did that and you did it. It's a really cool program. So just again, gratitude for that. And I'll put a link to that in the show notes below as well.
Yeah,
Jeffrey.
I love that program too. Even though I'm talking about my program with my wife, this duality program is also fantastic. It's just for, whatever is exciting for you in the moment. Those are the things you want to take. And not some people are excited about this one, some are excited about this one. Great.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I want
even
to help
just
everybody.
well, that's the thing. Even just like most spiritual teachers, like building something to like get you into like similar to spirit mind, right? But then it's like this. Hey, I know you're in 3D reality, and here's a way to surf. It's like great, very helpful. Thank you so much. So, yeah, just really grateful for everything you're embodying and sharing here with us, and always such a pleasure to have you on. And if you can tolerate it, I'd love to have you on again in the future. If you can put up with my kooky self. Thank you so
That's
much,
great.
Jeffrey.
I love it. Yeah. Well, I mentioned too before that when I said, "Oh, we're about to say the same thing," and you said, "Oh, I'm giving you too much credit." But years ago, one of my students, I was teaching psychic classes, and somebody said, "How do you know all these answers? Everything we ask you, you have an answer." And I said, "Oh, what class are you in? Did you forget? This is psychic training." I said, every time you ask me a question, it's like you hand me a little business card. All I do is flip it over and read the answer on the back." Right? It doesn't mean I knew that beforehand. So
Profound.
it's co-creation. That's why I say we're about to say the same thing, because I'm just saying, you're handing me the cue card and saying, "Hey, I got most of it, but I can't quite make out the rest." I'm like, "That's okay. I can read. I got good eyes. I'll just flip it over."
I'm
So yeah,
glad you brought your
love to hear more of
glasses. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. It is such a treat, seriously, for me. I like, I knew you were coming on today, and my usual process is to like put together like 20, 30 questions, sit down, really nut them out, put a logical flow to them, and then rock up to the conversation and scrunch them up and throw them out. And I was just, I was like thinking about all the questions, and I was like, great, we're not going to talk about any of these. It's just going to be totally intuitively led, and we're just going to go into all these places. And that's what I was saying before. I was like, I can't believe I referenced Harry Potter.
But it's perfect, because then it gave me the chance to relate that story that we're all so much bigger than we know.
Which I think I've never heard you share that story before, and it was profound.
It's kind of a rare one. Yeah.
Yeah, like that would have been such a
that they didn't all make it into duality, but yeah.
That's such a trip, but picturing yourself in 4 different places at the same time as well. And like what was echoing in the back of my head was the autobiography of a yogi, when there's certain people that are like, kind of in one place, but then also witnessing themselves in another place at another time, and just how, just trippy consciousness is. And I love just how expanding these conversations are, even for myself, let alone for the listener. And obviously I know the listeners love it as well now. So
I think it's that part of me that knows that I don't know everything, so I'm just always trying stuff out. Yeah, like I had another one. I was sitting in a class and thinking about something the Dalai Lama had said the week before. I was at this Dalai Lama conference, and all my friends, we went. It was like 3 days long, 108 monks on stage, and everybody's just falling asleep, going unconscious. It was just so powerful, the energy. So all my friends bugged out at lunch the first day, went to the beach, and I just stayed there, and I was just tuning in telepathically to the Dalai Lama, like, "I don't speak Tibetan. Can you just kind of give me the cliff notes? Like, what are you talking about, man?"
Yeah.
And he said, "We're all one." He said, "That's all I'm talking about. We're all one." So I was like, "Oh, okay." And then the next week, I was in a class, another spiritual training, because I was a total junkie, and I'm sitting here and I was thinking about that, and I was like, "Oh, if we're all one, and like here we're all in this deep meditation, this is a really powerful class, and everybody's resonating the same frequency. Let me check that out. I want to test that theory, right?" So I just kind of tune in, and I be the person sitting next to me instead of me, right? And it was like, when you do stuff like this, you learn all kinds of crazy stuff, right? Like right away I learned, like, okay, now it's like, I'm Jeff, And now I'm Chris, this woman sitting next to me, and I can see the teacher from a slightly different angle. But the I was the same. That was what blew me away.
What do you mean by the I was the same?
Like, I am Jeff. And then this part didn't change, this I am part. And I just like, I am Chris. I am didn't change, right? It was the same me, but I was Chris. And then I was like, well, that's pretty wild. So let me try the person on the other side. Boom. And then I was like, let me just try everybody all at once. So now I'm, I think we're maybe 12 people and then the teacher. And I'm seeing them from 12 different angles all at the same time, like in some sort of weird 3D awareness. And it was like, but it was all me. Even the teacher was me. And I was like, interesting. I thought, let me go a step further. And so I kind of reached out in my awareness. We're at a hotel in Denver. There's some guy walking by in the street outside. Well, I say some guy, but it was me. And then I'm the guy walking down the street. I can see the light, I can see the traffic, everything, and I can see my teacher from 12 positions, and I'm my teacher looking out at the students. And I was like, interesting. Right? And so that's the kind of experiment where it's like, I didn't need to do it again, but I was like, oh, I have a tangible experience of what the Dalai Lama related to me telepathically the week before. Said, we're all one. I'm like, yeah, he's right, I get it. But it's not, that kind of information is not the kind of stuff that you can really apply in daily life very much. As far as,
it's just a bunch of fun.
But it does, like, from that point on, I saw everything and everyone from a different perspective at times. Yeah.
Can I ask a question about that? The I am. You said that remained consistent. Do you reckon that's a bit of a connection back to spirit mind? Like, is there something about that?
Yeah, well, there's kind of a joke on my website is called IamJeffreyAllen.com. So there was like, I put that in there for a reason. And also I couldn't get JeffreyAllen.com, but also like, that's why I put the I am in there. I'm like, because I am, some people say, that's the name of God.
Yeah.
Maybe that's actually a biblical quote. My name is I am, or something like that. I can't remember exactly, but I'm not a very good religious scholar. Yeah, so I'd say, yeah, in that context, in that discussion, I am would be, in spirit mind would be the same thing. Yeah, just be a name for spirit mind.
That's a great little distillation right there. Yeah, it reminds me, and I'm conscious I've got to let you go in a sec, but, well, I got you. Sorry, greedy little Amrit. Again, that's just a judgment. Relax, bro. So one of the things in there is, I remember I used to sit down for meditations, like early on, and I used to just zoom out. I used to just explore what it would like to be looking down from the sky above, looking down on where I was at.
Yeah.
And I wasn't convinced whether I was actually doing it or not doing it. This is, again, Amrit, very engineer mind, right, back in the days.
Yeah.
And now I'm listening to you and I'm like, but I had some tangible visual experiences, which I discounted at the time as like, oh, you're probably making it up, Amrit. You know?
Yeah. That's good. That's, you know, like skepticism is really good. It's just a step. It's not the end goal.
That's the really interesting piece. This conversation today has really invited me into, just try differently.
Just try stuff. It's great.
Just play more and not be afraid. I think there's, back to the belief system, there's like fears around things, but it can't really hurt, can it?
No, it's very difficult to hurt ourselves in that way. That's actually the second program that I never talk about, Unlocking Transcendence. It's the other program at Mind Valley.
I researched it and I left it off.
That one, we never kind of nailed the marketing, and probably naming it with a U didn't help either because it's at the bottom of the list usually. Probably should have called it Amazing Transcendence or something.
Yeah, ascending Transcendence. Yes.
Right. Alphabetize your courses. That's a little tip. And, but yeah, that one's all about play. It's like, okay, now that you got through duality, we used our mind and all this stuff. Like, let's let's just play. I just wanted to know what would happen to people if we just had experiences with like no teaching at all. Just give everybody, just create a space for people to have it, just guide them through experience after experience after experience, the questioning who they are every step of the way, giving them like new experiences that, new superpowers you didn't know you had. Just go, next one. It's like 60 days of that until by the end you're like, who am I? Oh my God. It's probably the most fun one, I think, but gets the least attention. Yeah.
Wow, that sounds like a bombardment of like expansion.
Something for everybody.
That sounds epic. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. And if you love this podcast, please don't forget to hit subscribe, like the video, and comment below. It really helps so much more than I can say. And if you love this video, on screen now is the previous conversation we had with Jeffrey Allen. You're going to absolutely love that conversation where we dive deep into Jeffrey's origin story, and another couple of videos on screen for you to continue your journey here with the Inspired Evolution, for you to stay inspired and keep evolving. I'll see you in the next one.